This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors.
Whether we're talking about our dedication to preventing and restoring power outages, our pursuit of safety, or providing the best member experience possible, we are relentless in serving our communities.
Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit ExcelsiorCitizen.com today.
Yes, perfect. Thanks. From those seats.
Two. Sir, you can sit up here. There you go.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
How many do we still have in the hall, Melinda? 10. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know that we're going to be able to start it tentatively at 6, so we're going to try to accommodate the remaining people that are outside, so we'll be commencing a little late. But at the same time, we're going to try to accommodate the citizens that are here and allow room and space for them to enter before opening tonight's.
And I feel a little bit like Father Leon at the church I used to go to a long time ago, because you were late. He was pointing you out and telling you where to come. We have 3 seats up here, 1 here, 1 there, and 1 there, and 1 here. And 1 back there. So, you're good. Either way. 1 here or 1 right there. There? How many more do you want?
For anyone that's still out there, we still have some additional seating left over here on the left side of the chambers. Well, my left, your right.
That way we can go ahead and get started. I'm sorry, Jim. Did I laugh out loud?
Quiet one.
Jacob, I just need everybody to come in,
Okay.
have a seat, and I ask them to sign up before they leave. Sign out. And if they're speaking, they do need to sign in.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Mark.
Is there another?
There's 2.
You always want to hear me call. Your call last.
Still have the chair out here in front.
Mark. There's 1 right here.
There's a chair right up there.
Oh, up front. Yeah. Melinda, I think Sandy's coming. We want to go ahead and check that. We got 1 more chair.
She's not there yet. Jake, she's not there yet.
Okay.
So she may still be.
AC kicked on.
Excuse me. Fill in the roster.
Would any of you like to take a seat up here, the seats that we just opened up?
Four chairs up here.
4 chairs.
There's one right here. Also, somebody's pointing over here. We might smell.
There's one additional seat to the back. I think we're going to do our best to go ahead and commence and get started. I'm going to wait to see if we have one other commissioner that's going to be signing in via Zoom. Do we have confirmation yet? Lisa? All right. Do we have confirmation of Sandy's going to be participating? All right, well, we'll go ahead and proceed, and if she ends up moving on, we'll clock in accordingly.
Okay. Just in case she shows up.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here this evening. We're going to get started. I'm going to open. This is our April 29th meeting. It is currently 6:05. Lisa, could we have the roll call vote, please? Or roll call, sorry.
Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Gerdes,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffey, Commissioner Borchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Til, Commissioner Goldstein,
Yes.
Chairman Simmons.
Yes. Huge. All right, tonight, item number 3 for our commissioners, we're going to two-part this. I will need approval of the meeting summary from our February 26th meeting of 2024. I would need a motion and a second to proceed.
So moved.
I got the motion by Commissioner Gerdes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Goldstein. Lisa, could I have the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Van Til,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Borchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffey, Commissioner Gerdes,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes. Chairman Simmons.
Yes. All right. Approval of the meeting summary minutes from March 25th, 2024. I'll need a motion and a second to proceed.
I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes from March 25th, 2024.
Thank you.
I'll
Motion.
second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Van Til, second by Commissioner Gerdes. Lisa, could I have the roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Borchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Til,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffey, Commissioner Gerdes,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Goldstein,
Yes.
Chairman Simmons.
Yes. All right, that brings us to item number 4 on our agenda this evening, which is comments from the visitors. Seeing that we don't have too many visitors tonight, I don't expect that we'll have too many comments. But if you are here to speak on behalf of one of our agenda items, I ask that you wait till the agenda item is called, and during the public hearing, we will allow you to approach the podium, state your name and your address for the record. Speak loud, because we have several guests participating this evening when you do. But at that time, we will open the public hearing and allow to hear from our citizens that have participated tonight. I want to thank all of you for being present this evening. So we will do our best to hold conformity and order in this meeting. And I'll lay out some rules before we get started. But at this time, do I have any guests that are here to speak not on one of the agenda items this evening? Okay, so moving forward. All right, item number 5, RZ-24-002, an application by Eden Village of Excelsior Springs for the rezoning from C3 Service Business District to R4 Medium Density Residential District at 1112 Tracy Avenue, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. And this is a public hearing. Doug, could I have the staff report for commission, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is an application to rezone property from C2 or C3 Service Business District to R4. It's approximately 4 acres located at 1112 Tracy. And there's a photo of the property. And can you curse around it with your little cursor?
Wait a minute, sorry.
after we get out of Zoom. And it's this property right here. The application is being made by Eden Village of Excelsior Springs. They propose a development on the site to offer a living environment for individuals who are classified or have been classified as chronically homeless and disabled. The rezoning application is, if approved, any development proposal for that activity proposed by the applicant now, or any future activity that's permitted under R4, would still require to come back before the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council for formal final plat and site plan review process. The application for a rezoning is evaluated based on its conformance with the comprehensive plan, the potential impact of the development of all the potential uses that are permitted under the R4 zoning district, and the ability of the public infrastructure to be provided to serve any of the potential uses that are permitted under the R4 zoning district. So that is the evaluation criteria that the commission will use. Historically, this property has been zoned commercial and residential. It has gone back and forth, presumably based on development proposals at the time. Records are not entirely complete to determine specifically what activities led to the different rezonings, but in the past, commercial and residential. Right now, it's zoned commercial. Public infrastructure, the site is served by Tracy Avenue. It's classified as a collector street, and it provides adequate access to the site for potential development. Public water in that area was analyzed with an engineering analysis to see what type of development could be supported not only on this site but all of the vacant site properties in that particular corridor. The applicants had engaged an engineer as well and has indicated that there are improvements that can be made to the water system, distribution system, for the area that will provide adequate water flow and pressure to serve potential developments, not only on the subject property, but other properties. Sanitary sewer service is provided to the property, and stormwater management, which generally flows on the site to the south to Tracy Avenue, but any potential development on the property will require a stormwater management plan and improvements to retain on site any increase in stormwater. The comprehensive plan of the City of Excelsior Springs calls for creating housing opportunities and choices within the community, a variety of housing opportunities and choices. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan identifies this area for future mixed use development, which includes a variety of commercial uses, parking for retail activity, multi-use shopping, restaurants, other services, as well as higher density residential. The current zoning classification, again, is commercial, and that C3, Service Business District, which focuses on service-based businesses and commercial activities, such as shops, stores, both retail and wholesale. The R4, Medium Density Residential District, is structured to offer a diverse range of housing types. It permits any residential use permitted in R1, single family, R2, two family, and it also permits other housing forms such as garden apartments, townhomes, and things of that nature. Those types of developments, as you get into higher density, would require a planned development zoning district, where a plan is approved along with the zoning itself. Commercial development in the city has evolved over time. The comprehensive plan does recognize that a certain level of commercial land and development opportunity needs to be available to serve the residential growth in our town. The plan recommends setting aside or having at least 80 acres for future commercial use based on the current comprehensive plan. This proposal would impact, again, the 4 acres of currently developable commercial land. This property is identified in what is called a corridor district within the comprehensive plan, which is envisioned as a linear development site that connects major commercial, civic, and residential developments with each other. Thus, Tracy Avenue functioning as what is called a collector street, of collecting the traffic that comes from different development to be able to access other nodes of development within the community. Commercial zoning is recommended along arterials and major streets like collectors. This parcel is located behind a single-family home, which is currently zoned R4, directly across the street from some property it's also zoned R4. City staff does feel that the Planning Commission may find that the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan and those principles outlined, and the impact to surrounding properties of any development that is allowed as a permitted use within an R4 district can be adequately addressed through the site plan review process. And adequate public infrastructure is either available or can be reasonably provided to serve possible future development of the site of any of the potential uses permitted within the R4 zoning district. If the commission feels that the application satisfies the principles and priorities of your comprehensive plan, and the impacts on surrounding properties can be properly addressed through the site plan review process and final plat process, and adequate public infrastructure can be provided, then staff would recommend approval of the application to rezone. And at that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any technical questions from the commission.
Wonderful. At this time, I open the floor to commissions. Did we get Mrs. Barnes? Did she have it? Okay, just wanted to verify, so if we had a secondary online. But at this time, I open the floor to commission to ask questions on behalf of staff.
I had a question on the designating the land, setting aside for 1.5 times greater than the hard demand. So that 80 acres number is suggested by that 1.5 times.
Yeah, it's very difficult to calculate, and it was done by city staff in a very brief time. But we're looking at existing land zone property for residential, and existing zone property for commercial. And I don't believe we adequately took into account properties that may be in one zoning district but identified in a comprehensive plan for another land use. But we came to the conclusion that this would not have a significant impact on deterring or at least significantly reducing the amount of available commercial property to meet that goal of the comprehensive plan.
And currently at this time, we don't have any additional infrastructure currently on site for accessibility for the applicant as far as water, sewer, other things as identified in this report.
Currently, sanitary sewer would be available. There is water service, but it's not adequate to serve development of that entire corridor. And so certain improvements would have to be made either by a final development application or site plan that would come forward for this property, or would have to be made by another development in that corridor that would come forward. But the city took the step of having that engineering analysis done so we could show the property owners and potential development activity what would be necessary in terms of water service.
And I wanted to clarify, Eden Village has said that they will take that bear the full burden of that expense.
That's correct. So when we have a zoning application, while it is not tied, in this case, to a particular development proposal, we want to make sure, for cities' public interest, but also for their interest, to make sure they understand what the potential improvement requirements necessary, and they understand it, so we ask them to recognize that. So they retained an engineering firm to analyze it on their behalf, and have issued a letter saying that we understand what that requirement would entail, and if our development moves forward, we would plan to address it.
Any additional questions that commission has for staff before we proceed to the public hearing?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be commencing into the public hearing. Before we get started, I'm going to ask that, since we have such a large volume of people attending this evening, that we will actually structure the format of speaking this evening to help simplify proceedings. Once we recommence the current public hearing that was commenced last month on the March 25th, 2024 meeting, I would ask first that we have the applicant speak, and then any in favor of the initial zoning change from C3 to R4 to then speak, and then anyone that is against the zoning change from C3 to R4 to speak. And again, once you approach the podium, we will give time for each individual that would like to speak this evening. I ask that if you plan on speaking and you have not completed the registration and providing your name, your number, and your email, please do that before leaving. And then in addition to that, we'll try to structure it the best so that we have a good overall meeting and allow the public to speak on their behalf. But we will be commencing the meeting, and I'm going to confirm, just because I want to articulate here. Let's see here. We had proposed the original time. Get to it. We will be recommencing the public hearing from 6:03, and that would be from our April 29th, 2024 meeting. So the public hearing is now commenced. At this time, I would like the applicant, if they would approach the podium, state their name and address.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Anderson. My address is 801 Dunbar Avenue, Excelsior Springs, Missouri.
Wonderful. And I'll just remind you, it is going to be difficult, but so that everyone can hear, if you could speak as loud as you can.
I will speak as loud as I can. My voice is not loud. Okay. Eden Village will be providing ultra-affordable rental housing that complies with the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act, meeting needs identified in the most recent Thrive Community Survey and Regional Housing Partnership Data Hub Housing from the MARC website. The Thrive 2023 survey indicated that housing ranked in the top 4 concerns for our community, just after availability of local wage jobs, which 60% of respondents were concerned about. 59% of survey respondents were concerned about housing in general. 57% were concerned about mid-range working class housing, and 54% concerned about homelessness in our community. This pattern was also indicated in the 2022 Thrive survey, exactly in the same order of the 4 most concerning items to our citizens. According to the Regional Housing Partnership Housing Data Hub from the MARC website, 34% of Excelsior Springs residents are housing cost burdened, and 34% of, 11% are severely cost burdened, demonstrating the need for affordable housing. Our project is designed to address the housing needs of our most vulnerable neighbors and community members. Eden Village also aligns with the following goals of the City of Excelsior Springs comprehensive plan. in which it states all neighborhoods in Excelsior Springs should provide a positive housing environment for its citizens. The city's housing supply should offer all residents of Excelsior Springs the opportunity to live in a decent house that is within their means. It also describes the effort to establish a community housing partnership that includes a nonprofit development corporation and financing sources to fill market needs not easily met by the private market. And also supports efforts to provide a variety of housing types and densities to meet emerging demands. We look forward to the opportunity of partnering with the city to meet these goals. We are privately funded, so there is no tax burden to the community. We have applied for an affordable housing grant to fund the development costs. Based on the history of other Eden villages receiving this grant, which is 5 out of 5 of them, we are optimistic that we will receive the funds. The Eden Village project will increase the value of this vacant site, increasing the property values in the area. Our estimates are that this is a $1.8 million project. So when you build a $1.8 million project, it will increase the property values around it. The on-site services that we will have are based on collaboration and partnerships with organizations who already provide necessary services to potential residents. So there should be no additional cost or burdens to those providers. This model may actually reduce their current expense as their clients secure affordable housing. Our desire is to better our community, making Excelsior Springs a better place for everyone who lives, works, plays, or visits here. We will be a gated and secure, pedestrian-only neighborhood. And we will have 10 quality duplex cottage-style homes in a courtyard setting with green space, community gardens, and a community building. Our units will meet or exceed 2018 construction code. And again, our housing complies with the Fair Housing Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Any questions?
No questions at this time. At this time, I would like to open the floor for anyone in favor of the zoning change from C3 to R4 zoning type to now approach the podium, state their name, give their address. Do I have anyone that would like to speak in favor?
My name is Don Leadford. I live at 2124 Kearney Road. I've been a resident of Excelsior Springs for most of my life. And as far as I can remember, there's never been either a business or a resident developed on that property. It's sat empty as long as I can recall. And so it seems to me that given that track record, the prospects of that property being developed in according to a C3 zoning are somewhere between dismal and non-existent. So we could cross our fingers and hope that somebody puts up a movie theater there or does something with that property. Don't expect that to happen. Or we can acknowledge that maybe there is a better use for the property, a better zoning for the property than exists now. What I hear over and over again is the need for quality, affordable housing in Excelsior Springs. And this rezoning addresses exactly that need. And so given the fact that there's R4 zoning literally next door and across the street from this project, it makes sense to me that the commission would agree with the staff recommendation to approve the zoning request. I think that that's really the only issue that's at stake tonight, or that's really appropriate for consideration tonight, who exactly the residents are who will live in this development, is a question for another time. It's not really relevant for the decision about zoning for this property. I think the bottom line is that we're not taking property that is productive and generating tax revenue for the city and allowing it to be used for some lesser purpose. We're taking property that is undevelopable, has sat empty, and we're utilizing that to meet a critical need in our community. We need affordable, quality housing. I'm not here tonight representing the Good Samaritan Center, but some of you may know I am the president of the board of the Good Samaritan Center, and so in that capacity I have some understanding of the issues around homelessness in our community. And it is a complex, multifaceted issue, but I can't think of another person in Excelsior Springs who has cared more about that issue or about the people directly impacted by that issue, or who has spent more time and energy working to resolve that issue than Kelly Anderson. And so I think that she has earned an opportunity to take the work that she's been doing for some time to the next level. And I think that, I think that the issues around the specifics of how this project works are issues to be discussed farther down the road when there's a development plan, as the project proceeds. And so I think for the purposes of tonight's meeting, I'll just keep it short and sweet and say there is a better use for this property than the current C3 zoning, and it would be compatible with the city's plan, and it would be advantageous to the need in our community to rezone this to R4.
Thank you, Don. At this time, I open up the floor for additional speakers in favor of the zoning change from C3 to R4. Please state your name and address and speak loudly.
Good evening, folks. My name is Cameron Hwit. 1502 Reed Court is my residence. I am an Excelsior Springs born and raised kid. Just graduated from Excelsior Springs High School in 2020 and graduated from William Jewell College recently with degrees in nonprofit leadership and applied critical thought and inquiry. One of the most American and democratically supported ideas in the history of our nation is the establishment of a robust nonprofit sector to meet needs that the government and the private sector are incapable of meeting due to lacking resources, funding in particular, and human efforts. I would suggest that we should allow the rezoning of this particular lot to give an opportunity for an organization who has no stake in the game other than meeting human need that is abundantly needed in our community to go forward. If you're concerned about your funding, I would like to reiterate once again, Eden Village is not looking for your money, it's just looking for you to let them do their thing. And with a 100% success rate with this development grant, with a robust history of gaining private donor support among other public and private grants, I insist to you that they can handle the fundraising on their own. They don't want your money. When it comes to, again, this idea of supporting the nonprofit sector, I think it's very important for local business owners, local government officials to understand that, again, the only existence of the 501c classification is to meet human need where it is unable to be met by the government and unable to be met by the private for-profit business sector. Further, I would just like to elaborate on the last gentleman's point. I don't think if your concern is solely about the individuals who will be living in this property, that this is the time for that issue to be brought up. And if you still feel that that is the time for that issue to be brought up, I would just suggest to you that perhaps your perception of our most vulnerable population has been skewed by perhaps impersonal experiences with these individuals, with negative perceptions that have been fed to you from a slew of sources. And I would just encourage you to meet human beings where they are, and to support them and offer them a hand up rather than a handout. And that is what this organization does incredibly effectively, is meets people where they are, and doesn't just throw them fleeting resources to keep them in the systemic cycle of poverty, but offers them a hand up to be able to take themselves up by their bootstraps and walk themselves into being housed and being dignified in what they do, and being human beings. That's what they are at the end of the day, just like all of us, just often human beings who have fallen on a difficult time or an unexpected circumstance. So I would just encourage all of you to allow this organization the opportunity to move forward. It's been really fruitful to see the different questions people have. Those have been very valid things, I think, and things that we can come together as a community to address and to work together to create the most holistic approach to solving this issue of homelessness in our community, and to serving our most vulnerable population. And again, I would just encourage you to give this a shot, and know that with this additional plan that will be needed, if any development was to occur, there will be plenty more opportunities for you to learn about the organization, the constituency served, and to voice your opinions and ask your questions about the organization's makeup and that sort of thing. Thank you.
Cameron?
I'm Jennifer Chappell, 15019 Salem Road. I'm employed by the Good Samaritan Center at 108 South Thompson. For nearly 20 years, I've been working with the housing situation in Excelsior Springs on many different financial levels. I have been tracking the housing in all of America and the trends that it takes. And I'm telling you that the feathers have not even yet hit the fan. At this time, we are having very much difficulty even getting landlords to accept Section 8. That Section 8 is the middle ground, I would say, for the cost of housing. And as well, the mental health, like Tri-County, it's now Beacon, they've also tried to get landlords to take their clients. The rent is going to be paid, and these people will have caseworkers. It's been very difficult to take those roads. In fact, the only progress towards housing that we've seen in Excelsior, and I remember when it was a very large problem, was when Doug Perry decided to help the homeless. He's still here and he's still helping the homeless. I will also say that as the Section 8 is decreasing, the rents are going even higher, to the point where even our Section 8 clients cannot afford the rent any longer. Public housing, we only have the 3 units. They're predominantly senior and disabled. What I can tell you about the senior and disabled is they are also quickly becoming our most unhoused population. You can't just put somebody into an apartment and think that they can live without services when there's issues like hoarding or lack of medications or whatever is happening, the lack of the resources that they need. Eden Village will offer that to those residents, keeping them in their homes, which they're paying affordable rent for, and they will be able to be housed permanently. That means they're not back out on the street. And if they face being back out on the street, there will be things put in place so that that doesn't happen.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate you. At this time, any additional speakers in favor of the zoning change from R4 to C, or from C3 to R4? Repeat myself multiple times.
Mark Donovan, 1701 Warrenall Road, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. Bob knows I work at Habitat for Humanity. I'm blessed enough to work for an amazing organization like that, and I serve on the board here with Eden Village. I just want to say, I think most of us in here, if not all of us, are lucky enough to be middle to middle upper class. And Kelly mentions the cost burden. I really want to highlight that because the cost, it's over 40% in this community. There really is a need for affordable housing in this community, and the fact that there's properties close by that honestly are comparable, I think I would suggest that you go with this proposal. So I'm all in favor for this, and I hope you guys are too.
Thank you.
Melanie Grooms, 31157 West 159th Street.
Could you repeat that again?
Melanie Grooms, 31157 West 159th Street.
Thank you.
I'm a resident here in Excelsior. I moved up here in 1993, and the property there has been empty for as long as I've been there. It's grown up in weeds, and occasionally somebody mows it, but it's basically an empty property. The location where that land is prime for homeless people because it actually puts them in the city where they can walk to stores or get a job. They're not isolated again. I feel so passionate about where the land should be that at one time I offered Kelly my land. I have 10 acres, and I looked out at my acreage and thought I could put these people out in tiny houses and put them on my land. But that doesn't fix the problem. They're already in the woods. They already live under trees. They already have tents. We need to put them in the middle of a community where they are surrounded by people and they get their dignity back. I have been to other Eden villages, one in North Carolina and 2 of them in Springfield, and they are in the middle of residential areas, and they're absolutely beautiful communities. They have sidewalks and trees and gardens, and these people take care of their property because it's theirs. It's not their tent. It's not their Walmart sack they're trying to keep warm with. It's that they have a house that they are paying for and they are taking care of it. This is not a Band-Aid approach to homelessness. This is an actual fix. The main reason people ever leave an Eden Village is because they die. They don't move out. They actually have probably had long-term illnesses, and they're getting up there in age and they actually pass away. People don't move out because they want to go back to homelessness. That's where they live. It's their home. I think that's all I had. Never done this before, but I am firsthand. I have firsthand knowledge of it. Kelly has taken this project from literally knocking on people's doors and asking if they need food, and it has transformed into taking food out to the woods and saying, do you need a meal? This is not, these aren't it. These are human beings, and they need to be treated like human beings. These houses give them back their dignity. It doesn't raise your taxes. People don't come from other states or other cities. There's strict criteria to move in an Eden Village house. You have to be homeless here in Excelsior for over a year. We're not bringing people in from Kansas City. We're not bringing them in from another state. If they could come in from another state, they probably wouldn't be homeless. It takes money to travel. So if you have any questions about how the system works, this is the time to ask, because it works. And your fear of this, that, and the other can be resolved if you just ask. These are human beings. They're not its. Thank you.
Melanie, thank you. At this time, the podium is open. Sorry, it's been a long day. I would invite anyone else to please come up that's in favor of the zoning change.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address, please.
Excuse me. Vernon Hendrick, 212 Woods. Something I want to address before you make this decision is that we're talking about homelessness. This isn't something new. I remember in 2010, I went down Lover's Lane. I was going to have lunch, and I sat down and looked up. There was a nest a home nest, a human nest. And I realized, oh, someone's sleeping here. I better leave. I don't know if anyone else has got to see this. I've been to laundromats at 4 in the morning doing my laundry because there's no one there and it's quiet. Except there is someone there. They're hiding in the bathroom because they have nowhere to go. This will solve that problem of people actually afraid to go out in the city after night because, well, what if someone gets me? Well, these people that are going to get you, they just want a place to live. They want a place to put their head down. And you individuals, who 3 I know very well, have the opportunity to start it and let the debate begin from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Vernon. Podium is open. Anyone else in favor of the zoning change before we convert? Any additional speakers in favor of the zoning change from C3 to R4?
My name is Joyce Cowan. I live at 15311 Old Quarry Road. I've been a resident of Excelsior Springs for 40 years, and like the others stated, that property's never been developed for any means, any shape, any form. I remember when the hotels were there, the little A-frame houses, and they tore them down because, you know, they were rat's nests basically. But this program with Eden Village, if you do your research and you get online and you look at it and look at how successful they are, it's just amazed me. When I first heard of it, I didn't think it would be a good program either. And after talking with Kelly and doing my due diligence and my research of everything they have online, read their pamphlets, this is a wonderful organization, and they have built these fine homes for the homeless to live in, and you cannot go wrong with doing this. You just cannot. And they're not going to decrease your property value. I don't know why anybody would object to it. There's no reason to object, because it is nothing but adding property values to Excelsior Springs. That property has had nothing on it. I've lived here 40 years, never anything. So I urge you, anyone, get online, read about them, read about Eden Village. They're a wonderful, wonderful group, and you would really enjoy working with them. And like Kelly, she is a passion for these people. She's been through all this, and it just does my heart good that we're trying to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Right. Last opportunity now for, all right, please state your name and address and speak loudly, please.
My name is Melanie Donovan, 1701 Warnell Road. I've lived here for 35 years of my life. I've been a senior career advocate formerly at the Good Samaritan Center. I had the awesome honor and opportunity to work with Kelly at the beginning of, well, maybe the middle, more like the middle, of one-on-one with homelessness. I think Excelsior Springs is the greatest city on the planet. There's no greater place than Excelsior Springs. We have people who are just extraordinary. Like, it just amazes me how wonderful this city is and how we all come together to tackle problems and make change. And so I'm here to encourage you to change this zone so that we as a people can come together and really make a difference for the most vulnerable among us. Man, there's nothing greater on this planet than doing that for the most vulnerable. It'll take work, it'll take lots of responsibility from lots of people, but we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, at this time, I'm now going to request anyone that opposes the transfer and change of the zoning type from C3 to R4 to please approach the podium, state your name and your address, and we will continue to proceed.
Brad Eels, 1991 Larkspur. I won't say that I oppose the rezoning. What I will state is Doug has done substantial research, which is what Doug does, and usually does a fine job at that. But I will recall back to 1995 when I attempted to buy the property that's in question right now, and made an attempt at that time to change it from what was an R zoning, and I can't remember whether it was R1 or R4, whatever it was, to a commercial. We went through the whole process. It got changed. We were going to build a mini storage complex. That was way back before mini storage complexes were really what they are today. You know, it seems like mini storage has become the world's need of everybody not to turn loose to anything. But that being said, I think we're, you know, I don't want to get off track here tonight because we've talked about how great they are and what they could do and how it could help people. That's not really in the question tonight. It's a question of rezoning. The things that came up to me when the rezoning got approved, but then I went to the effort and I spent what back then was a substantial amount of money to me to get drawings put together for this storage complex, and at that point in time the city manager, the public works director, number one, the access off of Tracy was not sufficient to get a in and out width with the easements on each side for the utilities to be brought into the property. So it wasn't sufficient to even have access on and off the property to build it. Number two, the topography of this land is all uphill from Tracy to a high point behind the fire station, or alongside the fire station, which also became a substantial issue to build the fire station in question where it is, just for the fact that the farther back you go and the more square footage you put, the more watershed you're going to have. What do you do with that watershed? You don't have enough room down at the front of the street to build a great big retention pond to slow down watershed so you don't flood downstream. Believe you me, where I developed my land out where I live now, I'm dealing with it every single rain. And if you don't think so, come out and look at my pond right now of what I ate after a 4-inch rain that we just got over the weekend. All right, and I eat over 900 and some acres that comes down through the school district, vacant land, worn out estates. It's a nightmare. So the more asphalt, the more rooftops, the more you put in up here causes more watershed, and the topography really doesn't allow it to do it. So, you know, that being said, yeah, and I'm not going to stray too far off the line here. I just want to stay on zoning. But yes, I do understand the situation we're at, and people, I think, and you know, some of the apartment complexes have been bought out by corporations that I don't know who they are, but for years I was the second largest landlord in Excelsior Springs. I've dealt with homeless people. The church that I used to attend knows exactly the people that I put in and helped. Sometimes that come to bite me, sometimes it got me in court because I had a person that used a name backwards and they weren't supposed to be living within 1,000 feet of a school. Those things do arise, those things do come up, and they are a nightmare for somebody. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's not an easy step, but stick to the issues of the planning. Will anything fit on that? And there's a good reason why there's nothing on that land, and everybody's hopes for a theater and everything else was actually going to include this section of land and tie it together with a lot split to make that land feasibly workable. And if it was really workable, it would be worth more than the price that's being asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I invite any additional speakers and please state your name, address.
My name is Jim Rice. I live at 940 Warnell Road, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. I've served on Parks and Recreation Board. I've served on Planning and Zoning. I'm a past candidate for City Council. I oppose the rezoning of this property. Once you take your commercial property and rezone it and it's used for that purpose, you lose it. It's gone. This is the growth of the future growth of our community. And on any given Friday and Saturday night, you can sit right out here on 69 Highway and watch all the tail lights go south towards Liberty and Kansas City, and your tax dollars, our tax dollars, go that direction with them. For the last several decades, we've been dealing and tried to eradicate some of our issues with the transients that we've had in town. We've made strong headway. I'm not going to begrudge anybody a home or a place to live. I think we look at other areas that already exist with the proper zoning. There is one such lot, and I do not have any financial interest in this whatsoever, that is just south of Anytime Fitness and to the east of North Jesse James. There are 6 acres sitting there that could be used. And if you don't know where I'm talking about, it's where Amber and Huey used to keep their bulls. But there's 6 acres there. There's a sign sitting there at the corner of the parking lot for Anytime Fitness. It's all grown over with weeds and vines and stuff, but I see it in the morning when I walk. I think I've said enough.
Thank you, Jim. At this time, the podium is open. Anyone that would like to speak, please approach the podium. Please state your name and address, please.
Mark Spahn. I live at 1009 South Marietta Street here in Excelsior. What I would like for the commission to consider is what is the best and most productive use of the land that is in question for all of the citizens of Excelsior Springs. It was said a while ago that the property is undevelopable, and I absolutely do not agree with that statement. While it has not been developed is another issue. A week ago Friday, I delivered the State of the City address to the Clay County Economic Development Council luncheon. And during that address, I made a statement that we feel like we are at the tip of an iceberg that is moving towards us for expansive growth in Excelsior Springs. And when it was explained by Doug that there is 80 acres that are set aside for commercial development, I feel like that we are just in the position to begin developing just such land. And it has been explained that why it was rezoned from residential to C3 mixed use years ago. There was a gentleman from Liberty, the mayor of Liberty reported on a decision made that for a recent parcel of land, and he said prior to the rezoning, the taxes produced on that parcel were somewhere around $90,000. He said after they rezoned it for commercial use, the taxes, which benefited all of the citizens of Clay County, was somewhere around $3.2 million. So I would ask the commission to carefully consider your decision and realize that if we are poised to have expansive growth in Excelsior Springs, that we're going to need such land. I understand it's not been developed so far, and I understand the issues that Brad Rose raised about the detention pond. I know that is able to be overcome. We got a plan right now for a parcel of land right across the street, and they're going to deal with that issue with the big detention pond and deal with the watershed. So again, just consider what is the best and most productive use of the land that will benefit all of us. I think it is commendable to make an attempt to help people. I've been involved in my church and with benevolence for years. I've taken people out to eat. I've bought them groceries. I have fed men on the street in Louisville and in Kansas City. When they asked for money, I said, "Now come on, are you hungry?" You said, "You're hungry. I'll take you and get you something to eat." And so I think it's commendable that Eden Village wants to help people, but consider the best and most productive use of the land for all the people.
Thank you, Mark. At this time, the podium is open. Kind of sounding like a broken record, but please state your name, address, and speak loudly.
Yes, no worries. And I will try really hard to make my voice project. My name is Katrina Becker, 110 South Main, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. So I too, I feel that it is going to be necessary for us to do something very productive with that property that will be fruitful for our community, as our community has been growing, and as we, much of us know that we've been working very hard at continuously growing our community. I will also share with you that not only as a nurse, but a home care business owner, I have dealt with the homeless and the disabled. And we do, here in Excelsior Springs alone, we have 2 high-rises that take in the elderly and disabled. There are 2 other apartment complexes that not only take in the elderly and disabled, but they also take in the homeless. And I will tell you firsthand, I cannot share, but there is an individual that was homeless at one point in time and now is at the high-rise. So we do have housing that is available for these folks. Lastly, I would like to discuss, in the event we bring in homeless, which I am very passionate. In fact, I volunteer to assist with veteran homeless folks. I do that once a year downtown Kansas City, and it warms my heart. However, if we don't have a homeless work program, what are we really doing effectively to assist these folks to get better for themselves so that they can feel confident in their lives and continue forward? So I did not hear of any plans on that. So in the event we're just providing housing, we're not assisting them, to gain confidence and work. With that said, how much work do we really have here? What sort of transportation do we have to assist them into the city to find work, to then better gain assistance for themselves, to better themselves, to, again, as we would like to see everybody, become more independent? It's a huge concern of mine. And we actually do. We do need affordable housing. I would agree with that. I actually have been having much conversation regarding that with many folks in our city. And yes, we definitely need that. And I do believe during the conversations, which I do have many, there are a lot of folks that are working toward that to achieve that for our folks, as Liberty is growing into Excelsior. And to me, I'm very excited to see that, and I think everybody else sees that in the community, as they're growing and more folks are moving into Excelsior. So perhaps we need more businesses. I was very excited myself to see that we're having a Quick Trip come in, along with, we've built, the community, the business owners downtown have built a beautiful downtown Excelsior, and I'm very excited to have 110 South Main downtown Excelsior and get to know those folks. I do have a heart for those who are disabled and elderly and homeless, as that's the business I'm in for a reason. But I don't know that we need that if we don't have a work program, if we don't have processes in place to assist them, and if we don't, and even if we have the processes in place, if we don't have the hours to provide them, what good are we doing? Are we not handicapping them at the end of the day? That is all I have.
Podium is open. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sonia Schmitz. I live at 905 Elm Road here in Excelsior Springs. I'm a transplant. I've only been here since 2020. Moved here with my husband and kids. A couple of different times I heard the folks speaking in favor refer to Eden Village as a housing project. Historically, if you look back at housing projects, that's not a favorable term. While I do believe that our homeless population. It is, they are needy people. And it is a benevolent service. It's an honorable service to serve those people. But again, even now, we have HUD housing, and you kind of know where those houses are, because you just know, because you just know. And from what I understood from the gentleman who spoke here, he said, the government hasn't been able to do it, the private sector hasn't been able to. Well, from what I understood, Ms. Anderson to say was that that Eden project would get funding, like grants. That's government funding, correct? Is that correct? No. So where does the majority come from?
Hold questions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's hold questions here. We don't want any cross-referencing
Sorry.
communication, which is okay. So that will be taking note.
Okay. So wherever the funding comes from, I'm sorry, then I misunderstood that. I thought that was, grants. So I guess that's different. But typically, I guess my question, I'll just, like a rhetorical question, if it hasn't worked in the past, how is this different? If the money was available in the past from government or private or business or wherever, the government, whoever gave the money before, if that didn't work, how is it going to work now? What's different? And that would just be my rhetorical question for that. And I would like to see information about that.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
All right, the podium is open. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak? Got a couple standing up, so I see you, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Reeves. I live at 1807 Carlton Way, Excelsior Springs. Historically speaking, Americans are extremely generous and benevolent. I don't think anything has changed here this evening on either side. Those that are opposed to zoning change, I don't believe it's because we're not benevolent in nature. I think some of us feel that there's just a better fit in other communities. It's about the fit. It's not about whether or not we believe in charitable acts. I'm a Red Cross volunteer. I work between the Red Cross and the military every week. And I work at Immaculata Manor. I volunteer my time, which is my most valuable asset. It's worth more to me than money. So, because we oppose a zoning change, doesn't mean that we're not benevolent ourselves. Our heart goes out to everyone in that situation, but we also believe that there are better circumstances and better sites than the one that's been outlined. And the rezoning is pretty much the first step in the wrong direction, in my opinion, for this move. Thank you.
My name's Ashley Frazier. I live at 1319 Tracy Avenue here in Excelsior. My thoughts on it are, when someone says you shouldn't ask who, that's when I say, okay, who? Why are you telling me not to ask who's going to move in there? If we change the zoning of it, that's the first step in moving people in there, that they're telling us not to ask who. And so I oppose that for that reason, also for selfish reasons. It's fairly close to my house. I don't want my property value to drop if the wrong people are living there. I understand their point that the area hasn't had anything in it since the hotels were there in the 70s or torn down in the 70s, 80s, whenever. Yeah, but I just wanted to step and say I do oppose it. So with that, I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. At this time, the podium is open. Anyone else that would like to speak, please approach the podium.
Norma Thomas, 1231 North Jesse James Road.
Could you repeat that, please?
Norma Thomas.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You can say it louder. I was trying to help you out.
1231 North Jesse James Road.
Thank you.
Are you going to be voting on this? I'd like to ask a couple questions. Are you going to be voting on this tonight?
There will be a vote tonight, subject to the zoning transfer from.
Have you notified the people that live around there?
Yes, public notice was proceeded, which I will take a list of your questions and then we will address them at the end. So you go ahead and hit me with.
Okay, are we still one of 2 cities in the state of Missouri that are low income per capita? Can someone answer that? Molly?
I don't know what your question means.
Let's keep all questions here, and then what we will do is the way questioning will work is we do have a few questions that have been proposed. At the end of the public hearing, once closed, we will go through and address all questions to the best of our ability. In the event we do not have a specific response or additional data to support what was requested, we want to make sure that you post your name, your email address, and provide a contact number, and city staff or an individual will contact you directly to give you additional insight on the matter at hand. So please direct all questions here, and we'll be sure that we have them adequately. And then once the public hearing is closed, we then will try to address as many of the questions that we can as a commission and staff. So just to clarify, is there a vote this evening? In addition to your second question, basically, and I just want to verify that I am correct in taking my notes, have all surrounding property owners been notified? And the last I don't know that it's your last question, but the additional question was our current structure rating for.
We are one of 2 cities, or we were, I don't know if we're the only 2, that are, there was special legislation written for us at the state of Missouri qualifying us as low income per capita. I'm assuming we're still there.
Any additional questions?
Yes, I'd be curious how many HUD vouchers we have. Excelsior Springs, how many HUD vouchers Excelsior Springs holds?
How many HUD vouchers are currently in operation in the community? And then
And is that different than Section 8? Are the HUD vouchers actually different than Section 8 when it comes to, say, houses that are or apartment houses that are income-based? Are those 2 separate programs?
All right, I have that one. Any additional questions? You're full of them tonight. I'm getting them all. So I'm just making sure that we draft this correctly. And then, like I said, I do want to remind everyone we will answer to the best of our ability. Some of the data and information that is requested we don't always have initially on hand. So if you are someone adequate to have an understanding for any questions, please note before you leave your name, your number, and your email. And I didn't mean to interrupt, just giving additional reminders.
And I'm sure that people are probably going to throw things at me for this statement. But
this is community involvement, so everyone here is voice their opinion of this community.
I am opposed to this because we have been inundated with HUD. First it was FMHA houses, which I think is a good thing. We were inundated with HUD. 10 years later, we're back to FMHA housing and HUD. Although HUD's not building anymore, we do still have those places and people still do rent them. So I'm opposed because I guess I'm just opposed at this point as a taxpayer to the not-for-profit that we have in this town, and there's a lot. If you run down 69 Highway, you're going to run into 6-8 churches that do not pay taxes. And they don't pay taxes on the parsonage. The school, I mean, when you're looking at places that don't pay taxes, it hurts our community. We have to have a tax base. And if we give away the commercial property, then we're not going to have a tax base if we give them to not-for-profits. So I'm definitely opposed to this, and I think if you vote on this tonight, it's probably one of the things at this point that is holding back what they want to build there. It should be commercial property.
Thank you.
I've had, actually, my parents tried to get the property that I now live in zoned commercial. Weren't able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. At this time, I open the floor and podium. I think I had an individual. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Oops.
Since Norma had questions, I'll have a question. Are we, in our master plan, Jim McCullough, 15306 Old Quarry Road, and 1104 South Caulfield Drive until Jake gets it sold. Anyway, I have a question since we're asking questions. Are we out, and I've heard about the master plan, we don't have any more R4 zoning in our master plan, we're all out of that, is my question. And if we're not all out of that, why aren't we looking at the property to develop this deal? And my kids are 5th generation, I've been here 4 generations, lived here, I've traveled all over the country through my job. I was born into helping people. My mother, there was no other option in my mother's life. She helped a lot of kids in town here. We spent many a Christmas Eve at the projects helping people out. I was sworn to secrecy because I was never supposed to tell anybody at school. Since we've opened business here in town, my wife and I have been very instrumental in helping some young children that had bad upbringings get away in life. Hired them at 15. When they lied, they said they were 16, but we brought them up, and I'm proud of those girls that we were able to raise. And some of the guys, my wife has taken on 2 people, husband and wife, that hitchhiked from Texas to Excelsior Springs, didn't have anything. And my wife gave them a job, both of them, at our restaurant, and we helped them, and with the Good Samaritan Center, worked with us, we got them housing. There's a lot of programs out there for the veterans, for affordable housing and assistance with that. Those programs already exist. But, and you know, to answer the question about there's nothing there, well, there wasn't anything where the fire station is until we decided we needed to have a fire station on that side of town because it was growing that way, and thank goodness we had a piece of property that would work for that. And so that's why we built it up there. I think in our master plan, I think we got to stick with that. I don't think that rezoning that corner to, that should have been retail up at the Y should have been done, because it should have been retail, since we just worked hard to pass the CID, and anybody that's going to be there is not going to be retail, so you get the best attorneys in the world, and they're not going to add any tax dollars to our sales tax. It should have been retail like the other 3 corners, and I'm afraid we're taking this property that's already zoned C4 because we have a vision, and my family does have a piece of ground down the street. My dad lives down the street. And we bought that 39 years ago with the envision that it's going to be all houses someday. Well, that didn't work that fast. And when I opened my restaurant 28 years ago, I envisioned the town was going to be just like it is right now in 5 or 10 years. Well, it takes time. It takes people with money to come in and do that. So I would recommend that we recommend to them that we take a hard look at the other R4, and I've already looked it up, we do have some, other R4 zoning that's already currently zoned, and look at that property for putting in their deal. The reason we like that property because it's cheap. And so they want to go in because it's cheap, but if you get that property and you got some other property, then you could do just like the lot split deal. I mean, if you get that property and you get some other property around it, then you could do something commercially that would work, and you would have enough place to put your retention pond, which are obnoxious, but it's a federal thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, I mean, I'm all about helping people. I've been involved in helping people all my entire life, and I'm about continuing to help people. And I appreciate what the good people here in town are already doing. And I know that if you got good people, there are people with housing that are available to help these people out that currently exists in this town. I know that that property down the street from this property, the caves, that those people still wander around. They're living out there. We're not doing anything about it. We're trying, but I think that, you know, some attention needs to be paid for that. A lot of the people that are coming to town are being recruited by him, and they're bringing them to town. And those are some of the people that live downtown now. So I know that for a fact because I own a business downtown, and there they are. And I know where they go when they leave because I just happen to live down the street from them now. And I know they live there because they're there at night and they're there in the morning, unless they just go home and sleep for an hour at night sometime. But I'm all about helping people, and I'm helping people, but I really think that we need to take a hard look at what we're doing and quit spot zoning things here and there. We think that should be commercial. We should keep it commercial. And it's not about homeless or anything else. It's about what our master plan is. I think we should stay on track. It's coming. Like I said, it's not coming near as fast as I thought it would, but it's coming. And I'm so proud of what everybody's done and the investments that have been made in this town over the last 28 years. So with that, I'm done.
Tim, thank you. All right, at this time, the podium is open. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
I would. I think we need a little bit of...
Well, hold on.
You're going to... I'm sorry, Jennifer Chappell.
Well, and I understand, but at the same time, we gave out both sides the...
Oh, that's what you're asking. I understand.
Yeah. So I do appreciate, and we have all of your comments noted. At this time, is there anyone that would like to come and speak?
Ryan McCullough, 100 Sherry Lane. I have a ton of statistics and things that I would speak against this, or against this specific project, but particularly for rezoning to residential, the biggest topics I have that haven't already been covered is, has there been any thought of how many people are going to be moved in there versus our current shortage of firefighters, medical responders, police, all those things, because the majority of homeless especially have diseases, have drug problems, medical problems, all those things. We're already short firefighters and especially paramedics. When we add more people right next door to them, how is that going to affect their call and us having to call Kearney or Lawson to bring an ambulance in for mutual aid 4 or 5 times a day already? Is that going to increase to 7, 8 times? Or are we going to have to raise taxes to bring in more firefighters when we can't already staff the current need for them? How will any of that be affected, or has any thought went into that?
Thank you. At this time, the podium is open. Any additional people that would like to speak on behalf of the zoning change from C3 to R4 that might have opposition? Give a second before we close. At this time, hearing no additional speakers, I will be closing the public hearing at 7:24. At this time, we will go through a list of questions that were actually provided during the statements made by our citizens. I've done my best to keep as good a records as I potentially could, so we will start through those now at this particular time. I asked staff and commission for assistance, primarily staff, on some of these matters that we'll be going through. Starting with some of, let's see here, we're gonna go, a lot of notes. Let's see, try to highlight most of them. Let's see here. Okay, Katrina, I just want to verify one thing real quick. You did ask a question. What programs do we currently have as a city municipality that could potentially incorporate work responsibilities or programs that would give assistance to the current homeless situation that our city potentially faces? Any additional transportation requirements and any additional processes or infrastructure support that we might have as a community and offer to individuals in need in our community. Did I get that correct? I believe so.
Yes, you did. So it wouldn't really be the city's responsibility though as a whole. Like it wouldn't be the city or the community's responsibility to be like the individuals who are wanting to put up that community. In the event they want to put up this community, they shall have processes in place for, you know, work.
I wanted to clarify that, but I do understand. So you weren't asking deliberately to the actual community itself.
No, it would not at the end of the day be the city's
I just
responsibility.
wanted.
However, my question to the entity asking to put up this community, have they really done their homework and confirmed or denied whether our community
What we're going to do is,
or the amount of work hours?
Yes, wonderful. As this, again, I'm going to remind everyone tonight solely, this is just in regards to a potential zoning change, not the applicant directly or the program or administration that is operating. But at the same time, we're building a basis for the zoning type, its conformity standards, our comprehensive plan. But just reiterating that you will have an opportunity to ask those types of questions, as this will be a future ongoing development. So at this time, I'm going to
on
turn.
that question then? Within the respect of the zoning, then my next, so.
Okay, we will address that. Did you put your name and information on that?
I did, because then I have the zoning question, you know,
Wonderful. You'll
related
be able
to
to
as far
provide
as.
staff. You'll be able to provide staff a list of questions that you might have directly to the applicant. We can make arrangements on that behalf. I'm just trying to get clarification since we have so many people that are here this evening. Everyone, we appreciate you being here this evening and taking time out of your day, as this has been a process so far. As we're going to continue to explore, I'm going to go down to one of our next ones. And I do believe this is Sonia Smits, I believe. Is this program offering any form of government funding in our grants funded federally at all? That is another item that doesn't necessarily pertain, but the question was asked, so that might be something that we contact. Did you complete your name, email, and phone number? I don't know where you're sitting. Yes, you did. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. In addition to that, we have Norma Thomas, which we do have several questions to identify here. Are we voting on this evening? Yes, there will be a formal vote that is issued by commission that will carry forward to council, and that will transpire this evening. Have surrounding properties been properly notified? I will leave that up to staff to answer now.
So city code requires that we provide a public notice in the newspaper when we have a public hearing like we're having this evening. We did that on 2 separate occasions, prior to the March meeting and again for this meeting. As a courtesy in the past, we have sent out letters to surrounding properties that are within 200 feet. So I believe Ms. Thomas, you probably are not within that.
I know, but I talked to John Blackburn and he wasn't notified and he owns property right next to it. So I wasn't asking.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We could get verification to Mr. Blackburn to make sure that he was properly notified. Additional question, 1 of 2 cities at the time qualified as low income per capita for the actual community itself. Are we identified as a low income per capita community for subsidies and different programs and assistance such as MHDC, as well as Section 8, HUD housing, and other factors of that, identifying lower income housing opportunities. I will allow staff to respond to that. If we do not have a direct response, we'll get additional information provided to you accordingly. Unfortunately, all data and information is not always available at our fingertips intermediately. We want to be sure that you get accurate information that's being provided.
So we aren't aware of special legislation that qualifies us as low income, so we'll do a little bit more research on that to see exactly what that means and whether or not we still qualify.
Thank you. All right, this is one that's probably going to take additional study and confirmation and information, as well as I don't know if this would be a public matter if we're only identifying necessarily a number and not individuals. How many current HUD vouchers do we currently have in our community? I will leave that for staff.
And we don't actually track HUD vouchers. That's done through the housing, our housing program in our community, which we aren't a part of, which is not us. It's not our department, nor is it the city.
So that question could be diverted for Ms. Thomas directly to the Housing Authority for HUD vouchers to identify with them directly for probably identify by zip code. In addition to this, HUD vouchers in comparison to Section 8, are they the same or are they different?
Same. Housing Authority should be the one to answer that question.
And that would also be one directed that you could get clarification between the two and qualification standards for that matter.
Are you saying the housing authority here at Excelsior Springs?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Which, if you don't have the number, if that's something you would like to request of us, we can get it sent to you. And you did complete email, phone number, and registration, so we could send that information to you?
I put my address.
Okay. As long as we have a contact line.
Yes.
Thank you. In addition to that, brings us now to Mr. Jim McCullough. Identifying one, has the applicant looked at additional R4 properties? That would be a question directed specifically to the applicant that does pertain
Now, my question was, in their master plan, is there any more R4 property available?
Okay, sorry for we'll clarify and correct that. And at this time, I will allow staff also to give additional insight based on our research and the compliancy of commercial property to R4. Is there currently additional R4 zone property? Don't know that it's necessarily available currently, but at the same time, what are you aware of?
There are properties in our community that are currently zoned R3 and R4 that are available.
Okay, wonderful. And then next one from Mr. Ryan McCullough. This will also be directed for city, but at the same time, we would need to probably have additional conversations in it pertaining to occupancy count initially to the individual applicant, but more importantly, identifying the number to understand how the city infrastructure as far as fire, medical, EMT to policing would accommodate due to the current shortage. So that's a way staff could respond. What is our current situation with the fire department, policing on staffing? Do we feel that we have the appropriate infrastructure to where we would not have to assist on surrounding communities and support? But we can identify accordingly if I need to be clarified.
We don't, in our department, we don't track mutual aid calls, nor do we track the number of calls, so we'll have to do more research on that.
Okay. And Mr. McCullough, you provided your contact information so that you could be responded to. Thank you. I think that identifies, unless I miss someone, all the questions that were actually stated for the actual rezoning itself. I think that does. All right. So at this time, I open the floor back to the commission for any additional questions to staff before we proceed. Hearing no additional questions, I will need a motion and a second to proceed. In your motion, please identify the staff report and the case number.
I'll give you the motion, but I don't know if I got the case number. Maybe right there.
Yep.
I make a motion that we approve this. That is number 5 RZ-24-00T2, an application by Eden Village of Excelsior Springs for the rezoning from C3 Service Business District to R4 Medium Density Residential District at 1112 Tracy Avenue, Excelsior Springs, Missouri.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Commissioner Gerdes. In favor, do I have a second?
I'd make a motion to deny the change to RZ 24-002.
All right, so I have one motion in favor, a motion in denial.
I'll second.
Second in motion denial by Commissioner Beston-Borchard, and a motion, but that's 1 second before you second any favor. We have two motions made, so we have
You have
a breach in.
you have a motion on the floor
We have a motion.
to approve RZ 24002. You have no second on it.
I have no second to proceed.
Then you could declare as chairman, the motion dies for lack of a second.
Yep.
And then you could accept a second motion.
All right. So at this time, I have a motion in favor, but then a denial, so it will be removed. Do I have a secondary motion to be made?
I recommend we deny the change of the zoning.
Would you allow it, or please provide additional, based on your denial, please?
I feel like we do have other properties available, and that in the R3 and R4, and I hate to see us lose commercial opportunities.
Okay, wonderful. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
You have a
I will
second?
agree upon the losing of the commercial property.
Okay. Secondary with basis of lack of additional commercial opportunity for future growth. All right, so I have a motion made by Julia Goldstein, Commissioner Goldstein, my apologies, and then a second by Commissioner Borchard. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Goldstein.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Til.
Yes.
Commissioner Borchard.
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Gerdes.
No.
Commissioner Griffey. Chairman Simmons.
Yes, and based on my reasoning is the future growth and the tip of the iceberg that we are heading towards for future expansion, and a lack of commercial opportunity can cease itself if we continue to rezone and spot zone different properties based on our comprehensive plan. So at this time, the item will be carried forward to council. Council will then proceed there based on our ruling. Any additional items or clarification that we have? Doug, I seen
You
that
can
you might
announce the
have.
date of the council meeting. It is
If you would.
not a public hearing.
Yeah, if you would, I don't have that in my notes, please.
The council meeting in which this will be considered is on Monday evening, May 20th at 6 p.m. in this room. It is not a public hearing, so the council does not have to provide an opportunity for additional comments to be heard.
But the record and minutes of this meeting will carry forward to council. They will have copies of all documentations as well as the individuals that spoke here tonight. In addition to that, it's still your right as a citizen to prepare and collect and basically attend the meeting itself. But as reminded, the council does not have to allow additional comments, but could potentially open the floor for opportunity. But that will be at the council's discretion. Now, we are proceeding on to our second agenda item. As I asked, you are more than welcome to continue to stay and listen to our second item that pertains to business signage in our community. Upon departure, I ask that you be relatively quiet as we commence. If there is additional conversation, you do have the ability down in the Hall of Waters to conversate, and after the meeting, we will be available. But I do appreciate your time and everyone coming out this evening. We appreciate the opportunities and the passion that all of you share for our community.
This one might go a little faster.
As you're vacating, please just remember we're still in session for our commission. So if you would go ahead and vacate, but the individuals that do need to complete their registration, identifying any emails, phone numbers, please provide. If not, if you would commence in a quiet order, we'll wait.
Speaking of benevolence, the church, school, communities support us on that. It's happened every year.
So
when I finish like this, though.
Okay, no, that's totally fine. Okay, and then one thing that I want to identify just for clarity is in East Village.
You have to hear it. Motion is made, and you have to go to the next steps. Like you have to see if there is a second. And if there's no second, you ask for it. If you don't hear it, you go, motion dies for lack of a second. And then you open up. I should have said something.
Which is fine.
So you only have one motion at a time.
So I wanted to verify. I was proceeding for that.
Thanks for staying.
Thank you. Well, the room I've got
stick around.
vacant. It is somewhat quieter. So those are hard topic items. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Next on our agenda this evening, I appreciate everyone's patience, and as we ran a little long, I will do my best to be diligent on the next matter items so that we can continue to proceed and get everyone out of here in somewhat of a timely manner, considering. All right, next on our agenda item that we will be hearing from this evening is ZTA-24-001, an application by the City of Excelsior Springs to amend Chapter 403, the sign regulations and the zoning regulations of the Excelsior Springs City Code. This also is a public hearing that will commence. Doug, can we have the staff reports?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Commission members, this application is a result of the city's code review process, which you have been undertaking for about 2.5 years now. But it's the last item. As the Commission recalls, Commission held a couple study sessions specifically on signage. You heard from city staff, the purpose of the code review was just to update, to correct ambiguities, any mistakes in the code, just correct, be more clear. But if there were some priority issues to address, to go ahead and do that. This is not a comprehensive review of the signage regulations. The city is in the process at the very beginning to update your comprehensive plan. That may be a topic that comes out of that process, and if that's the case, an update and review of the entire sign regulations would involve much more of the community and the stakeholder engagement and so forth. This is only focusing on trying to fix some issues that we identified in terms of administration and enforcement, and then to address a couple priority areas that we heard from stakeholders. So what you have before you is a proposed amendment that basically has 3 primary sections. The first, there are some changes to the sign definitions, and those help us in terms of administration of the existing city code. We added definitions for sandwich board, feather sign, and banners, including size limitations for both sandwich boards and feather signs. And then we clarified a few other items within the section. We then created a special accommodation under the sign standards for District C2, which would allow some specific accommodation for the central business district, which is defined in city code as our downtown area. Along with other signage that's permitted in the C2 zoning district, the amendment would permit one sandwich board per business within the CBD, and the sandwich boards may be placed on site if they have property that's on site, or they may place it on the public sidewalk in front of the business, not less than 1 foot from the street and not impeding reasonable pedestrian and disability access. No sign permit would be required for sandwich boards within the central business district. And this is, again, in addition to the other signage that's permitted already within the C2 zoning district that they're in. With this accommodation for sandwich boards, then the amendment would not permit feather signs. Then the third section is on temporary signs across the city. Current regulations permit a maximum of 4 temporary sign permits for 30 days each per business per calendar year. After reaching out to merchant stakeholders, we heard they were requesting some greater flexibility in how they applied their time period and duration for temporary signage. So the proposed amendment would modify the number and timing of temporary signs by permitting a maximum of 8 temporary sign permits for 15 days. 15 days each, per business, per calendar year. And under the current standards, temporary sign permits may be issued to run consecutively and up to 5, it should be 4, and I used the proper numerical 4. It should be up to 4, is that correct, Melinda? 4 temporary signs may be included under 1 temporary sign permit. Outside of the central business district as defined, temporary sign permits could be used for sandwich boards and feather signs under the number and the timing standards for temporary sign permits. So again, these proposed amendments correct some things that we feel are going to help city staff in terms of administration and enforcement of existing regulations without changing policy. And then hearing from the downtown merchants and then hearing from the chamber, we felt that these particular priority modifications affecting the central business district for sandwich boards and the temporary sign permit timing process and duration process would be more efficient for them. So that is basically the intent and the product in front of you with this sign amendment, and city staff would recommend approval. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
At this time, I open the floor to commission to address staff on the matters on our additional ongoing and finalization of the modifications to our sign regulations and zoning regulations in Excelsior Springs. But I open the floor to commissioners now. I know we've talked on this matter several times, so I don't expect there to be too many questions. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it. At this time, this will also, as I was juggling through my notes, be commencing and carrying forward and reopening or commencing a public hearing that we put in activation at 6:04 on April 29th of 2024. The public hearing recommence at this time. If any individuals or business owners would like to speak on the behalf of this agenda item now, please approach the podium, state your name and address, and we would be more than happy to get you in the records. Don't everyone rush up to the podium at one time now. I'll give it a second. I hate closing the public hearing in the same minute that I open it. If we're going to hear no additional comments from our guests that are participating in tonight's meeting, I'll give it just record, the public hearing was opened at 7:49. A minute only gets long when you wait for it.
You don't think so?
60 seconds is a long time.
Especially in
I
silence.
thought you could fill that up pretty easily.
You know, usually I can. It's been a day. It's been a day, all right? Not anything here, but more personally. It's been a day. At this time, we close the public hearing at 7:50. At this time, I open the floor again for Commissioner for any last questions for staff. Otherwise, I will need a motion and a second to proceed.
I just have a question. When the new regulations go into effect, are any old signs grandfathered at that point that may not meet this? Like I'm thinking of feather signs specifically. As an example, feather signs that are downtown, there are businesses that use them. Does that mean starting whenever city council approves that, then they would have to remove those signs?
They would, because the feather signs that we noticed in downtown are temporary.
But another thing that I would like to note so that everyone is clear on the commission, flags are still mountable on buildings. So patriotic, additional signs. So as long as it's mounted, the goal of this initiative is to keep the right-of-ways clear, free from obstruction or potential risk, falling, blowing, whatever the case might be. But permanent mounted flags to a building or structure, and just to clarify, is that correct from my staff, is in venues they could still put welcoming flags, they could do a restaurant flag, they could do several things, but the feather flags themselves then would go away. There will be no grandfather of that. Does that answer, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional questions pertaining to our signage? Great question, by the way. Hearing none, I would just need a motion and a second to proceed.
I'll motion to approve case number ZTA 24-001.
Very good. Commissioner Borchard on the motion, Commissioner Van Til on the second. Could I have a roll call vote, Lisa, please?
Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Gerdes,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffey, Commissioner Borchard,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Til,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldstein,
Yes.
Chairman Simmons.
Yes. Thank you. Doug, thank you so much tonight, and I know you have an engagement, and we appreciate you being here and doing what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right, at this time, that brings us to item number 7, the staff comments. Melinda's probably got all kinds of fun to bring to our attention this evening, so let's go ahead and dive into that.
First off, thank you to Jason Cole and Excelsior Citizen for sharing this evening's meeting online so that more people could be present. And we appreciate all those who attended and their willingness to work with us while we set them wherever we could find space in the room. So, and for those that stood the entire time, we appreciate that as well. And thank you for your time and your serious consideration of the issues that you had before you this evening. Doug said there'd be days like this, and when we went through our training, he told you to expect that at some point you would have a room full of people, and you did a fantastic job of hearing everybody out, and everybody did a phenomenal job. We will do pizza, and we had pizza and planning last night in this room at 4 o'clock. We had 20 individuals who came to that, and it was the first meeting of our comprehensive plan. We're going to do that again, and we're going to feed you pizza and drinks on May 16th at 6 p.m. at the community center. And it's just to learn a little bit more about what our comprehensive plan is. You heard us talk about that a lot this evening with one of our items. But it is also, it talks about the comprehensive plan, it talks about our planning process, and it's the first step of our redoing our comprehensive plan. So please, if you are able to attend on Thursday evening, May 16th at 6 p.m. in the community center, we'd love to see you. And planning and zoning will have a session with city council and city staff to talk about the comprehensive plan in addition to what we will do with the visioning session, which will be held in July. As of right now, we have no cases yet for the May 28th, and that's on a Tuesday, May 28th, planning and zoning. They have until end of day tomorrow to provide us with a packet, and at this time we don't have any. If we don't have any, we will be asking Commissioner Simmons for permission to cancel that meeting. And that's all I have.
Well, just to thank you, Linda, for all that you and staff do. And there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes by all of you, as well as Lisa. So we do appreciate your time in providing opportunity, direction, and guidance to our commissioners, as well as tolerating our madness on some occasions. So in addition to that, I'm going to open the floor for any comments of the commissioners at this time. And I open the floor to you.
I'm good. I got nothing.
Hearing nothing, I got a couple comments that I would like to end on. Tonight is one of those matters that can be extremely difficult as we have a growing community. I do feel that Excelsior has made leaps and bounds in the last 20 years in heading in all the right directions when it comes to school, infrastructure, community. I think there was a consistency that we heard from our citizens that were here. There's not opposition necessarily to the individual applicant or what is being requested, and the awardedness of individuals that want to continue the outreach, the support, the help from organizations to individuals. I think that our citizens really showed up tonight with great opportunity and delivering themselves and their ideology. I do feel it's important for our commission to be involved in the comprehensive plan and our planning, because I think that when we take it to a bird's eye view, you will actually see that the limitation of commercial is coming in. I know that there are several parcels that are very narrow, but when the larger corporations, bigger businesses, and other entities come, they will be probably purchasing multiple commercial properties that are owned outright by individuals, resurveying those tracts and creating new opportunity, as well as additional streets, curbs, infrastructure, and other things that will follow. I do feel that there is a good diversification of how our zoning map works, but being involved in that comprehensive plan gives clarity and direction and understanding of all opportunities and the directions that our community can head. I do feel that it's important that we start to identify additional development ground, that we seek additional opportunities for housing, whatever that might be. I think it was noted by Excelsior citizens as well as our staff reports identifying that we have multiple different projects addressing multiple different housing types that are on the horizon in our community or actively being built. So I ask all to be open-minded in their ideology and perspective, to be involved, continue to be passionate for our community as we always been, and we'll continue to guide our community in a direction that it complements both the citizens as well as our directive and narrative laid out in our master planning abilities. So thank you again. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. It takes a village. That's what I can end on. And at the end of the day, I think we have amazing citizens, great staff, and great commission and council as well. So thank you all for being here, and the meeting is adjourned at 7:58.
Well said, Chairman.
There you go.